Okay, so I need some air. This seems like a nice spot to finish. Let's talk about one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows. I think this is a good show to bring up given an episode I've covered in the past. Back in 2015, during my Cartoon Network Invaded, I looked at the episode The Eds Are Coming, which was one of the most legitimately terrifying episodes of a cartoon I've ever seen. The sound effects, the music, the animation, it was just unnerving. That's a great episode to watch around Halloween, but Ed and Eddy did have an official Halloween episode a couple years earlier called Boo Ha Ha. I haven't seen this episode in a long time, whereas I try to watch Jingle Jingle Jangle every Christmas. The show's creator, Danny Antonucci, did say that this was his favorite episode to make. So let's see how this one holds up. This is Ed, and Eddy's Boo Ha Ha. We begin on a beautiful fall day with Double D organizing leaves because OCD makes the best comedy, but Eddy comes out from detention and messes them all up.
Reap what you sow, Eddy. You filled the teacher's desk with processed cheese.
Lame. Next time fill it with ketchup and barbecue sauce. Then I'll be impressed. After some pretty cool opening credits that made me realize that Big Jim Miller worked on this because, oh right, both these shows are Canadian, they head to Ed's place where he's been watching horror movies in the dark. And Eddy has directions to a neighborhood called Spookyville that gives out buckets of candy. You know, is there a reason to have trick-or-treating when this town only appears to have about 12 kids? Well, they head out with Eddy as Elvis and Ed as Leif Erikson. As for Double D, he's decided to go as Vomit.
The bubonic plague! I'm the bubonic plague!
Dress as the coronavirus, then I'll be really scared. They head off, but Ed hears some laughter coming from the alley. It turns out to be the Canker sisters, for some reason roasting marshmallows here instead of their trailer park. I don't get it, what's the difference? Well, no matter, it looks cool.
Did you hear something?
That's actually not the grossest thing I've seen done to a marshmallow. Ed runs off, but Eddy tells him to be tough so they can get to Spookyville.
I saw 3 witches, and they put a jinx on you!
I put a spell on you, and now you're gone!
We then see Jimmy, who's dressed as the leprechaun Dr. Insano, but Ed only sees an alien. No, Ed, that's not till next season. So he pulverizes him, steals his candy, which makes Eddy happy. Sarah's a princess, by the way, which, yeah, I sooner believe Jimmy's an alien. Although for some reason, Ed sees her as some kind of fanged creature, but thankfully he stops her with a steak he had in his pants.
I have several questions.
And then buries her where she can suffocate. I'm cool with that. Double D runs into Naz, who's dressed as Medusa, and she takes him trick-or-treating with her. On one hand, friends who constantly insult you and get you in trouble. On the other hand, hot chick. But they show up and Ed fights her, making sure to not look in her eyes. Okay, ow. He slams a cement mixer on her and steals a wagon. They make it to the next mark on the map.
It says here, the next clue to look for is an abandoned hearse. How silly. Where on earth would we find... That's it!
How does a hearse crash and get abandoned? I mean, what was the context for that? Unless... could it be... zombies? Yeah, whatever. Kevin shows up and eggs them. He's not even wearing a costume, but Ed still sees him as the Headless Horseman. He destroys his bike, which... Come on, that bike's been destroyed like a dozen times. The next clue is to find a big oak tree, but of course they're all big oak trees. Then Ed sees a giant spider.
Who longs for companionship and checkers?
Ah, so that's why Johnny's so weird. He's a child of Aragog.
I might caution that you have any and all Halloween candy carefully inspected by your parents as a...
Silence!
Yeah, Double D, that was just a stupid myth made up by white mothers to stop their kids from having fun. Well, Johnny seems happy and they head off for Spookyville.
We gotta be getting closer! What's the next clue?
Good Lord!
Ah! Stay still!
What could that be?
It's clearly Wolf walking Wilfred. I mean, the shadow makes that obvious. Of course, Rolf, being thorny, isn't celebrating Halloween, but...
Rolf's autumn ritual of the gathering of the fungus which burgeons in the moist of the moonlight.
Yeah, that. Ed sees him as an ogre and destroys his mushrooms. I do love when he just hits him in the eye with a spatula. Rolf crying for his mom is always funny.
It is he! Dragon Plague!
Boo! You know, this is all pretty repetitive. I mean, sure, Jingle Jingle Jangle did a lot of repeating, but at least different things happened at each house. Everything here is mostly following the same formula. They run into someone, Ed thinks they're a monster, he assaults them, and then they go. Eventually, they do make it to Spookyville, but now a twist.
This is your house. We're back in the cul-de-sac. Seems your brother tricked rather than treated you this Halloween, Eddy.
Didn't we already do the Eddie's brother drew a bogus map storyline? How stupid do you have to be to fall for that twice? We sure Ed is the dumb one? All the kids Ed assaulted show up and get ready to pound them, but Ed does manage to hide them in a hole.
Whoa, this hole is huge, and I'm like falling.
But the kids find them.
Ed! They found us out! Do something! Silly willies! There are no monsters, cause Lothar has conquered all!
For some reason, they don't attack Ed, you know, the one who actually did beat them all up, and only go for Eddy and Double D.
Ain't Halloween so sweet?
I get Eddy, he was being a jerk, but what did Double D do to deserve this? So that was Ed and Eddy's Boo Ha Ha, and I know Media Wiz is gonna hate me for this, but I think this episode is just okay. For me, it's just a bit too repetitive and doesn't have enough plot for 22 minutes. I could see where it's gonna go by the halfway mark, and in the end, it seems Double D was punished despite not doing anything wrong, while Ed got off scot-free. It does still have that Ed and Eddy charm, good slapstick, funny dialogue, and some surrealness. So it's still fine. I can watch it, but I wouldn't put this as one of my favorites. That said, as a Halloween episode, it's great. The animation just screams fall, the colors just make it feel so autumn-like, and the animation when Ed has his visions is not only technically impressive, but are creative and sometimes kinda creepy. This special just screams Halloween, and even though on its own it's just sorta meh, I could see why people would love putting it on every October. I give the episode a 6 out of 10, but the Halloween factor gets a 9. So I still would recommend checking it out if only for the animation alone. You know, this is actually kinda nice. Being outside, fresh air, dark. Anyway, tomorrow we'll be continuing with Cartoon Network, but this time a mini-series. Yes, that one. See you then.